Hello, my dear friends, and welcome again to another episode here in our series on Saint Joseph. We are exploring here in these videos the identity of this saint as we celebrate the year of Saint Joseph in the Roman Catholic Church. We will be referring to several sources outside the scriptures, but basically we will have our foundational text from the Gospel. The question is whether Saint Joseph was an old man or a relatively mature man when he married Mary, when he got into this arrangement of a chaste marriage with the Blessed Mother. Now, the Hogiography, which means the sacred arts, you will find that sometimes Saint Joseph is depicted as an old man cuddling the baby Jesus. Now, you may ask, where is this idea of Saint Joseph as an old man came from? What are the sources or what are the reasons why there are some hagiographers who painted Saint Joseph as such? The answer, of course, is related to Mary. Now, in the Catholic Church, and I think in also almost all the ancient churches, except for the Protestants, but they are relatively modern, we believe that Mary is a perpetual virgin. So Mary is a virgin before, during, and after the birth of Jesus. But for the Protestants, they would stop up until the time when Jesus was born. So Mary, for them, was a virgin before she got pregnant by the power of the Holy Spirit. She was a virgin until she gave birth to Jesus. But afterwards, Mary now have other children with Joseph. So that's the Protestant view. But the Catholics, as I already mentioned, Mary is a perpetual virgin, which means that she is a virgin before, during, and after the birth of the Lord. And she remains so until she died. No? She is a perpetual virgin. So the problem here is, how can we make sure that Mary was a virgin when she is going to get married with a man by the name Joseph? And so the proto-evangelium of James, which is an apocrypha, would tell us that Joseph was a widower. In other words, Joseph was already an elderly widower. He was chosen by the chief priests to take care of a 12-year-old Mary, who is now going to become the mother of Jesus. And so, what you can see in this particular proto-evangelium of James is that Joseph is really an old man, a widower, and his role is just to take care of Mary. Parang a benevolent guardian. But that particular, while it is pious, it seems to be pious and seems to be, it's appealing to the sensitivities of the time, we find that this particular view of Saint Joseph is not really biblically based. Because number one, as I already mentioned, it is from the Apocrypha. And when I say Apocrypha, I'm not referring to the Apocrypha of the Protestants. Because for the Protestants, the Apocrypha are the Deuterocanonicals. And the Apocrypha of the Catholics is called as the pseudegraphical writings in the Protestant language. So when I say apocryphal, it's really writing that is not recognized as inspired by the church. No? So, example of an apocrypha is, for example, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Judas Iscariot. Those are apocryphals. But for the Protestants, they have a different way of categorizing. And maybe in one of my videos, I'll explain that. But it suffices to say that this is not a biblical text. It's not considered inspired. And so we can question such kind of imagination of Joseph as an old man. And how do we do that? First, there are many other questions that is related here, and I will be discussing that on the fourth video. This is the second part of this topic on Joseph as the chaste husband of Mary. But let us first establish whether Joseph was an old man or not, based on the Bible. Now, where can we get the possible age of Joseph? Can we determine the possibility, or rather, is there a possibility of determining how old Joseph is when he got married with Mary, the mother of Jesus? Now, we have to note that categorization of our lifespan is a normal thing. No? For example, Freud has his own categorization. If I'm not mistaken, it's the oral stage, the anal stage, the latent stage, and then the genital stage, and so on. No? So, for example, they give a particular range of ages to that particular stage. Now, for example, in modern times, when we say minors, what do we mean? We mean those who are not yet able to attain the age of 18. But if you notice, that's arbitrary because there's no biological indicators whether this person is already minor yet or not. Because, for example, we can say that they are already reproductive. They're fertile and ready for reproduction during the adolescent stage. That's why another way of categorizing our lifespan is by determining about like infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and old age. Again, the ages are determined by a particular range. So it's actually depending on the parameters that a particular psychologist or a particular sociologist would put into that particular category. It's not a biologically indicated factor. So when I say, for example, adolescent, what do I mean? When I say young adult, what do I mean? When I say adult, what do I mean? So we speak the same language by adopting a particular categorization. In the modern times, where we have, for example, Freud, we also have, I think, Maslow's and Kohlberg's and so on and so forth. No? And their theories are actually related to a particular framework. Now, in the olden times, they also have such kind of framework as to the ages. Now, we will be looking into the work of, we will be looking into the work of Philo, who is at the time, we will be looking into first the Schema of Pseudo-Hippocrates, okay? This is from the work of, I am taking this, my reference is from the book entitled Jesus and Paul by Jerome Murphy O'Connor, a biblical scholar of world renown. Now, in his writings on Jesus and Paul, he mentioned about this categorization of life, the human lifespan, when he mentioned that in that time, during that time, the framework is by 7. I don't know why they choose 7, but the length of the individual stages is traditionally fixed at 7 years. No? And this is the categories now. Pedeion, or infant, that's 0 to 7 years old. So in the time of Paul down, and maybe during a contemporary time, Pedeion is considered an infant in our, if you're trying to translate it into English, when the child is 0 to 7 years old. And then he is a paes, or pais, child when the child is 8 to 14. Merakyon, 15 to 21. That's considered called as a boy. Nianiscos, youth, 22 to 28. Aner, man, 29 to 49. And presbytes, or elderly, 50 to 56. And geron, or old, 57 and above. Now, what comes to mind here is, for example, and this is very amusing, I was asking, for example, in the youth, no, in the church, how old is the youth? Up until what year or age? I mean, can you consider a person as a youth? And the answer is surprisingly, up until 39 years old, as long as you are unmarried. Because with your 40s, it's already another story. You're no longer a young person. So, para sa commission on youth, I don't know how they made that, or even I don't know if whether that is still true until now. But if you are like up until 39 years old, unmarried, single, in other words, with no children, you're considered still a young person, which shows the arbitrariness of such lifespan categorization. Okay, but they also have this basis naman, no? I don't know what the basis is, but that's my point. Categorization of age is along that framework. So as I said, Pedeion 0 to 7, Paes 8 to 14, Merikarion, Meirakion 15 to 21, Nianiscos 22 to 28, Aner 29 to 49, Presbytes or elderly 50 to 56, and Geron 57 up. They stop counting by around when you're 57. I don't know why they stop counting. Okay, so that's the framework. You notice? So the terminal period of life is of course old. Again, if you want to explore about this, very interesting, but I won't go into that because of a time constraint. I don't want the video to be too long. Now, we will go to the Bible na. So I'll just get my references because I am here. We don't have a table, so pasensya na. Now, if you're going to look at the Greek Bible, now, full disclosure, I'm not really very good with Greek, but I can read a little Greek. So, pasensya na kayo if my pronunciation is not that good, no? But I'm looking into a Greek Bible. Luke chapter 1, verse 18. On the second part, I think. Here, this is the story when the angel was making an annunciation to Zechariah about the birth of John the Baptist. And when he was told by the angel that Elizabeth will get pregnant, of course we know the story, Zechariah reacted. And the way his reaction was this: Ego gar eme presbytes. Ego gar eme presbytes. In translation, for I am old. So it's very interesting. The answer of Zechariah when he was trying to talk to the angel, responding to the angel's annunciation, how shall I know this? For I am an old man. Ego gar eme presbytes. And as I said, the word presbytes here is translated as an old man. And again, let us recall that the pseudo-Hippocrates would put that presbytes as elderly from 50 to 56 years old. In other words, Zechariah now, when he received the annunciation of the birth of John, he considered himself as old man and he described himself as presbytes, which means that at that time, Zechariah must have been 50 to 56 years old. Certainly a ripe age at that time, because by the time you reach 57, they stop counting. Of course, because of the lifespan, no? Okay. The lifespan at that time is a little bit different than the lifespan now. And let us look at the text on Joseph. Again, from the same gospel, the Gospel of Luke. chapter 1, verse 26 to 27. This is now a description of the angel being sent to a city to a town of Galilee, to a town in Galilee, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph. The angel Gabriel was sent by God to a town in Galilee called Nazareth. The virgin engaged to a man whose name was Joseph, the house of David. The virgin's name was Mary. So, verse 27 is of our interest here. To a virgin engaged to a man whose name was Joseph. So, okay, let me read it in Greek. Andrei o onoma Yosef. Andrei. The words here is aner. Of course, Andrei can be derived from aner. So, Luke described, take note, the same author. Luke described Zechariah as presbytes to show that Zechariah was an old man. But when Luke was writing, and he was describing Joseph, he did not use the word presbytes or any other words, but rather he used the word Andre. Of course, andros can be can be just interpreted as man, no? As like anthropology, andros, no? So andros, so it's a derivation of that. But if you're going to take this as an indicator by which Luke would determine the age of Joseph, then we can say that he described Joseph as aner. And in the pseudo-Hippocrates, as I already mentioned, how old is the person when you are being described as aner? That's 29 years old to 49 years old. So, my dear friends, now we have a new insight. I hope you're following the argument here. The argument here is, look, when he described Zechariah, when he put words into the mouth of Zechariah, it's presbytes, an old man, which is, as I said, 50 to 56. But when he described Joseph, is aner, which is 29 to 49 years old. So we can say now, with a high certainty, that when Joseph was engaged and got married with Mary, he was in the prime of his life. He is in the stage wherein it is considered the maturity, not the decline yet, but the prime of his life, 29 to 49 years old. So it's between that, no? Somewhere there, that we can imagine St. Joseph now. So he is not an old, senile man. That's why we can see from this story how it makes sense that this man, Aner, can be able to go out at night and run away from Herod to go to a foreign land, which is Egypt. How can an old man do that? It will be very difficult unless he has a very good health. But even then, even if he has a very good health at this time during that period, the first century AD, we cannot really say that a 50 to 56 years old is still very strong. I think it's preposterous to assume that. And now see that Joseph, as portrayed by Luke, is not some senile old man, but a mature, vigorous aner, man, a mature man. And that makes now the story of the virginity of Mary, the perpetual virginity of Mary, more interesting. And we will explore that in the next video. Thank you very much. Please do share and subscribe this video. God bless us all. And may Saint Joseph intercede for us.